Wisconsin Live Desk here with you for the next 2 hours. Myself for the first hour, Kimberly Murphy will handle the second hour with you today as we bring you the news from around Milwaukee, around Wisconsin, the Midwest region, and of course around the country as well, because there's a lot going on today that we want to tell you about. First and foremost, how about a live look at downtown Milwaukee from our Estabrook Park Tower camera? Another beautiful day today, but a hot one, hottest day of the week according to our weather experts. Already 83 degrees out there and dealing with some of the haze from that wildfire smoke from Canada that's moving through our area. What a change the next few days will bring, though. So we're in the 80s today, going to drop potentially into the 60s at one point later this week, as that will bring also the chance of some storms along with it. So some things to be on the lookout for over the next few days here in Milwaukee and here in southeastern Wisconsin. We are, of course, keeping our eyes as well down south because it is a Brew Crew Tuesday, so to speak, at least. We give you a live look at Truist Park in Atlanta, or more like suburban Atlanta, outside of downtown a fair amount. That is the site of the MLB All-Star Game tonight, and 3 different members of the Brewers will be participating in that. And something else happening right now at this moment. How about a live look at Air Force One on the tarmac at Joint Base Andrews? We just missed the president departing Marine One, the helicopter, getting on board Air Force One, ready to take off and head to Pennsylvania for an announcement today. So this is happening as we speak. Air Force One on the tarmac, and we'll see if we can stay with this for you, getting the departure of President Donald Trump as he just left the White House earlier today, headed to the airfield, of course, and then on board that giant 747 plane on his way to Pennsylvania. The reason for this trip today, President Donald Trump will, along with Senator David McCormick of Pennsylvania, jointly announce tens of billions of dollars in energy and technology investments in the state of Pennsylvania today. It's part of a trip to the Pittsburgh area as well for a conference with dozens of top executives all promoting the president's energy and technology agenda. This is the Pennsylvania Energy and Innovation Summit. It's being held at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh and comes as the state's political and business leaders are all working to forge the city into a hub for robotics as well as artificial intelligence and energy. Of course, Pittsburgh, the steel city, kind of made its bones on manufacturing and steel over the decades, going back to the Industrial Revolution, now trying to really cement itself with the technologies of the future and of the 21st century. Robotics, artificial intelligence, energy, all a focus today for that Pennsylvania Energy and Innovation Summit happening once President Trump arrives. The president has repeatedly pledged that the U.S. will have energy dominance here in the global market, and Pennsylvania, of course, was a swing state that was critical to his win in both the 2024 election, also going back to the 2016 election. Joe Biden won it in 2020, so it's been a pivotal state back and forth in the most recent presidential elections. At the forefront of the president's agenda, in large part because of the coal industry in Pennsylvania, the Republican administration has taken several steps to try to bolster that industry. We got a shot of Marine One on the right there, one of those helicopters that the president arrived in, and now, of course, departing on his jumbo jet, Air Force One, on the tarmac there at Joint Base Andrews. So we'll try to keep this with you for a little bit, as we're also seeing, interesting today, some of the results potentially of the sweeping tariffs the president's administration has put into effect over the last few months. Inflation rose last month actually to its highest level in 4 months. The cost of gas, food, and groceries all were on the rise, and that reversed several months of cooling price pressures. So inflation on the rise in the latest data. The Labor Department said consumer prices rose 2.7% in June, and that was up from an annual increase of 2.4% in May. For the Federal Reserve, of course, often a target of the president, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell likes to see that inflation number hover around 2%. It was up to 2.7% in June. And while the engines are revving there on the tarmac, let's listen in live. Air Force One about to take off on its way to Pennsylvania. And there you have it. The plane is off the runway, the wheels are up and heading into the clouds there. Having gotten to see some of the arrivals and departures in previous years on both administrations coming to visit Milwaukee, whether it was President Biden, whether it was President Trump, certainly during the campaigns of recent memory. It is impressive to see that plane up close and in person. It took off right over my head once at MKE as I was in one of the lots here in Milwaukee. No matter your political leanings, a massive, massive plane. Pretty impressive to see. And we're watching it live here on the live desk. The president departing from Joint Base Andrews on his way to Pennsylvania, and specifically the Pittsburgh area, for a summit, the Pennsylvania Energy and Innovation Summit, being held at Carnegie Mellon University. And the president joined by Senator David McCormick of Pennsylvania. They plan to jointly announce tens of billions of dollars in new energy and technology investments into the state of Pennsylvania as part of that appearance today. Well, there you go. It's in the air, in the skies, on the way to Pennsylvania, but pretty neat anytime we get to see Air Force One in action, certainly as we just did here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Now, actually, before he left today, let me pull this up for you because this is actually a replay is going through right now. The president did take questions at the White House along with the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. So this is not live. The president's obviously on board Air Force One right now, but let's listen to some of the line of questioning from the media at the White House before the president left for Joint Base Andrews.
Get us out of that mess. Any messages for what? Yeah, go ahead. Do I have a what? For the people of Brazil? Are you from Brazil? He's going to trial now, right?
Yes.
When is that trial starting? When is the trial for Bolsonaro starting? When is it?
Months ago.
How is it going?
Now they are asking him to find him guilty.
But they haven't found him guilty, have they?
But what do you think?
But have they found him guilty? No. Look, here's the thing. President Bolsonaro is a good man. I've gotten to know a lot of prime ministers and presidents and kings and queens. And I know him, and I'm pretty good at this. President Bolsonaro is not a dishonest man. He loves the people of Brazil. He fought hard for the people of Brazil. He negotiated trade deals against me for the people of Brazil, and he was very tough. And he was tough because he wanted to do a good deal for his country. He was not a dishonest man. And I believe it's a witch hunt, and it shouldn't be happening. And it's not that I know him that, look, he's not like a friend of mine. He's somebody that I know. And I know him as a representative of millions of people, Brazilians. They're great people. And he loves the country, and he fought hard for those people, and they want to put him in jail. And I think that's a witch hunt, and I think it's very unfortunate. And nobody's happy with what Brazil is doing, because Bolsonaro was a respected president, very respected.
When you say that you want Adam Schiff brought to justice, what does
I
that
would love
mean?
to see him brought to justice.
That jail?
I'll tell you what, I think Adam Schiff is one of the lowest of the low. I would love to see him brought to justice. He is a dishonest, crooked guy. I don't know about the individual charge, if that even happens. But Adam Schiff is a serious lowlife.
And tomorrow morning here in Washington, AOC is hosting Zoran Mamdani for breakfast. Were you invited?
I'd love to be. I'd really love to go. I mean, I look forward to meeting them both. I know them both very well through what I read and through what I see. Look, he's a communist. I don't think our country is ready for a communist, but we're going to see. And I don't think that race is over yet either. You do have a couple of people running against, and it'll be an interesting thing. Things are coming out about him which aren't good. And, you know, AOC, look, I think she's very nice, but she's very low IQ. And we really don't need low IQ. Between her and Crockett, we're going to give them both an IQ test to see who comes out best. Now, I took my test. I took a real test at Walter Reed Medical Center and I aced it. I got every one of all those questions right. Now it's time for them to take a test. Anyway, have a good time. I like Dan Bongino, yeah.
Mr. President, do you think Putin respects you and takes your threats seriously?
And apologies for that. That was clearly the end of the recording there. That was a playback of the president taking questions at the White House before departing for Pennsylvania, as we just watched live here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Now, I'll throw up a shot, a live look at the White House on this Tuesday afternoon to tell you some of the other things discussed in that Q&A with reporters outside of the White House. The tariff war continues. President Donald Trump said that he plans to tariff imports from Indonesia at a rate of 19%, while American goods sent to the southeastern Asian country will face no tariffs. He spelled out some of those details announced on Truth Social before he boarded Marine One, the presidential helicopter, saying that the goods from Indonesia would be taxed at a rate of 19% coming into the U.S., but that American goods would not face any taxes going the other way. So that is a little bit of news. He also downplayed some of the possibilities of sending long-range weapons to Ukraine. Of course, most recently, he's had some of his strongest comments threatening Russian President Vladimir Putin with steep tariffs if Putin does not end the now 3-year conflict in Ukraine after the Russians invaded 3 years ago. President Trump said, quote, "We're not looking to do that," telling reporters about the possibility of sending long-range weapons to Ukraine. But there is, of course, this agreement coming after the NATO Secretary General was in the U.S. and continues to meet with U.S. officials today, plans to sell U.S. weapons directly to NATO allies and then pass those on to Ukraine. The Secretary General saying the details of that plan still being developed following a meeting with President Donald Trump earlier this week. It's an ongoing process, not just one package. Details of those weapons packages still being worked out by the Department of Defense, as well as the Supreme Allied Commander of Europe, as well as the Ukrainians also. Now, interesting, a bipartisan group of senators, including Republican Tom Tillis from North Carolina and a Democrat from New Hampshire, Senator Shaheen, both said that the president's agreement to do a 50-day waiting period to impose sanctions on Russia was too long. They fear, both sides of the aisle here, that could encourage Russian President Vladimir Putin to use those 50 days to try to win the war, or try to position himself better to negotiate at the end of that 50-day period. They wanted far less of a time frame until the U.S. could potentially sanction Russia or put tariffs in place that could hinder the Russian economy. But that 50 days that the president stated, perhaps giving too much time to Russian forces in Ukraine. So some of the things discussing there. One other notable part, President Trump said he wants Texas state lawmakers to create 5 new leaning Republican congressional districts. The state of Texas, of course, dealing with the aftermath of all of that horrendous flooding in the Hill Country, but there's also a special legislative session that will start July 21st dealing with the potential to rework some of the congressional districts in Texas. And the president saying he hopes that there are 5 new Republican congressional districts in Texas as a result of that. We shall see what comes from that. One other note, President Trump said he will meet with Britain's Prime Minister during an upcoming trip to Scotland. That would be Keir Starmer, saying that they are probably going to meeting in Aberdeen, Scotland, though the details still to be discussed there. Of course, the Trump family has a golf course near Aberdeen in northeastern Scotland, and a second course opening soon in that same area. Trump course also in Turnberry in the country's southwest part. So some interesting notes from that. President Donald Trump now in the air on Air Force One on his way to Pennsylvania for that energy summit, and an announcement with Senator David McCormick in terms of tens of billions of dollars of energy investment into Pennsylvania, a swing state in so many of the recent elections. All right, with that, we are going to take a break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Much more to get to, including some local news with our political reporter, Jason Calvi, joining us after this. But we do have to take a short break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back. It's the Wisconsin Live Desk here on this Tuesday afternoon, All-Star Tuesday as well. So we're looking forward to the All-Star Game here on Fox stations throughout the night tonight. 3 Brewers represented. We'll have a little bit more on that throughout the next hour and a half or so here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. But first, we want to get you to an important story happening. Let me pull up a picture for you right now because of what has happened inside of City Hall. A live look at City Hall, the Common Council making a series of decisions today that could impact housing in the city of Milwaukee. And for much more on that, we want to bring in our political reporter covering this for us today, Jason Calvey, joining us live from inside of that building I just showed here. So you can give us a wave maybe later when you walk outside, Jason. We'll have you on that tower camera. Tell us about what you're tracking today and what the Common Council is potentially doing when it comes to housing in Milwaukee.
Yeah. So, Carl, talking about cash, right? That's what this is all about. The Common Council is approving a proposal that could make it easier for you to make money on your property if you have a home in the city of Milwaukee. This proposal passed. It was a lot of debate. I mean, we're talking about this had been through the Common Council before, through various committees for months and months, and it kept getting sent back to committee, debated. Finally, today, here we are in July. And this goes back to, many, many months. They've been fighting over this, arguing over it, honing the proposal. And now we have that final proposal, and it deals with accessory dwelling units. Carl, this has a lot of names. It could be a basement rental unit that you have listed on Airbnb. It could be an in-law suite. It has a lot of different names, but we're talking about taking your property and potentially adding a unit in the backyard, for example, the side yard, maybe adding what they call an in-law, a cottage house, for example, is another name for it. That could be on your property, or it could be taking your basement and making that accessible, making that a rental unit then that you could rent as well. So the city, the vote inside of this Common Council chamber today is going to make that a lot easier, saying that you pretty much have a right to that. So this is going to cut out a lot of middle steps in the process and allow people across the city to do this. Now, it's going to cost a lot of money, right? You're going to have potentially an architect come in if you're going to be building some unit in your backyard, for example, your side yard, or even converting your basement. It's going to cost money to do this, but now this is something that is going to go to the mayor's office, and I'm expecting that he will potentially sign it as early as tomorrow. So this is moving very quickly after many, many months of debate here in Wisconsin, and particularly here in Milwaukee. Carl?
Interesting to see the speed, especially after all of that buildup, all of the conversations on both sides. I mentioned the issue at stake here is zoning and what's allowed in these different parts of the city of Milwaukee. Of course, we know the rise, Jason, of Airbnb, VRBO, and other rental sites like that. Is it basically trying to offer Milwaukee homeowners the chance to capitalize on some of that available money out there?
You know what I heard from a lot of supporters was not necessarily the Airbnb factor, but a lot of people were talking about affordable housing and the fact that it's difficult. If you're looking for a rental in Milwaukee, the prices have gone up in recent years. It can be hard. You have to be on a waiting list in many places. So this is one thing that they're saying will really help grow the city of Milwaukee. It's part of that growth plan to really have more accessible units. So, for example, if somebody's able to convert their basement, have that bathroom, that kitchen, that emergency exit that through the basement, they can now potentially, once this becomes ordinance and they go through the process and all of that, they can make money on their basement. So yeah, it is a cash-making enterprise for entrepreneurial homeowner, but also it's going to cost some money, it's going to cost investment, but at the same time, a lot of the city leaders who are talking about this were really talking about it as that option for people that are looking for an affordable rental in Milwaukee, to have a lot more options, because now you could have a rental in your backyard, potentially a rental in your basement. You could convert if you have some way to convert other space in your room to be a separate apartment. You can do that now once this becomes ordinance. Again, approved by the Common Council today, now moves on to the mayor's desk. A lot of discussion on the points and all of that, but pretty much end of the day, bottom line is if the mayor signs this, and he's likely to do that ceremonially as early as tomorrow, this will give people a right in Milwaukee to do this. We've seen other communities in our area do that, including Wauwatosa has allowed people to do these accessory dwelling units. And again, Carl, it's going to cost money. It's not something you can just flip the lights on and say, okay, that's a basement apartment. I mean, no, you need to have a kitchen, you need to have a bathroom, you need to have emergency exits through that basement to be able to have that basement unit, or converting some other space that you might have on your property to this unit. So that's one of the things they debated and voted on and approved today after many, many months here in Milwaukee City Hall. I also want to tell you another thing that had been debated was this idea of regulating trampolines in the city of Milwaukee. One alderman had proposed that, and at the end of the day today, the Common Council rejected that proposal. So there was a lot of regulations that they were going to look to put on trampolines in the city of Milwaukee. That's in your backyard, as far as distance between houses and fences and things like that. That bill, cracking down on trampolines in the city, failed today. It did not pass the Common Council.
Interesting. All right, Jason, I know you're heading out to get some work done on this on many fronts. I do want to ask one last question. We know the mayor has kind of pushed this idea of 1 million people living in Milwaukee in the future. That's the goal that he's put out there. So maybe this availability of more affordable housing kind of ties into that. Was there any kind of pushback? What was the word on the other side from anyone who didn't seem to necessarily want this? What was the reasoning for that? We hear the possible positives here, chance to make money, chance to have more housing. What were some of the drawbacks that people were concerned about?
Yeah, thanks for asking that follow-up question, because there was a lot of opposition to this proposal. When we looked through the file, there was letter after letter after letter from community members, organizations like the 5 Points neighborhood, community group came out against, at least in the files. Not sure if their objections that they raised early on were satisfied, but there was a lot of people that wrote the Common Council and said they were really opposed to this because it would allow people to set up shop, so to speak, in their backyard if they build a structure in the backyard or side yard or basement, but it doesn't have, they're worried that it won't allow the neighbors to have any input, because people will have that right. As long as they have the money and can do it safely, they could potentially build this unit. And so some neighbors were worried about not having neighboral input in the way it is right now, where if you want to have a change to your zoning, you have to go through a whole process, public hearings, and things like that. And so that's one of the big questions that people had that were opposed, was worried that they weren't going to have a voice in this process, and that the Common Council member representing that aldermanic district would also not have a voice moving forward, potentially opposing or objecting to some of these proposals to have units on your property.
Interesting. All right. I know there's a lot to get into. You're heading out to talk to some of those community leaders and possible people interested in this as well. So we'll let you get back to it, Jason. Thanks for bringing us, though, that update today from the Common Council, potentially major developments coming for the city of Milwaukee. Appreciate it, Jason.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, while Jason gets out and about to bring that story to you in full later today on Fox Local, we'll give you another live look at City Hall there with the flag gently in the breeze. Jason inside, about to go out and speak to some of those different people. That's the beauty of the live desk. We catch our reporters here in the middle of their day as the story is developing in the moment. But there you have it. The Common Council at least sending something to the mayor's desk potentially to allow those additional housing units on single-family lots in the city of Milwaukee. If you want to see Jason's full report, by the way, we catch them, as I mentioned, here in the middle of their reporting. That comes on Fox Local later this evening on our newscasts 4, 5, and 6 o'clock. So stick here throughout the day today. You get to see the work in progress and then see the final product tonight during our evening newscasts. All right, speaking of, we got to take another break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Much more coming for you here on this All-Star Tuesday. We'll take it back down to Atlanta, chat about the trio of Brewers in the All-Star Game tonight that you can watch here on Fox 6, and much more. We have the numbers from Wisconsin State Fair, the attendance, as well as the dates for next year's big gig, or excuse me, Summerfest. The numbers, not the State Fair. State Fair still coming, of course, later this summer. There we go. I should probably just go to break and recombobulate a little bit on the other side. Thanks for watching.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, good afternoon. Carl Defenbaugh here as we approach the 1 o'clock hour on the Wisconsin Live Desk. That means about 30 more minutes of me, and then Kim Murphy takes over the second hour of the Live Desk here each and every Monday through Friday for you on Fox Local from 12:30 until 2:30. One of the things we are very much looking forward to, not here in the Milwaukee area, but for the Milwaukee fans, is the MLB All-Star Game. And the Brewers trio of All-Stars is ready for all the action and festivities on that field tonight. Truist Park, down outside of Atlanta, kind of the suburban area of that Georgia sprawl down there. But that will be the site, the relatively new ballpark hosting the All-Stars tonight, and that includes the trio of Brewers. Let's pop it up for you. This was from the other day, but the three All-Stars ready to, after the wrapped up the first half of the season with that sweep of the Nationals, a 7-game winning streak going in, the trio of Jacob Misiorowski on the left, Freddie Peralta in the middle, and Trevor McGill on the right boarded that private jet and made their way down to Atlanta. We had the home run derby, of course, all kinds of fun yesterday, some of the All-Star festivities, and tonight will be the game at Truist Park. Now, Peralta, who was the initial selection, the only All-Star initially for the Brewers, pitched on Sunday, so we knew that he would not pitch tonight. That was the reason for Trevor McGill's selection, kind of the replacement for Peralta, so the crew could still have a representative on the field tonight. He's been the fantastic closer for the crew. But then the surprise became that Misiorowski will also join that duo, making it a trio. He becomes the starter with the fewest starts in his rookie season to ever be selected for the All-Star Game. Paul Skeens had that mark from just a season ago. Now Jacob Misiorowski, with all of 5 starts under his belt, will hopefully see some action, get to pitch tonight for the National League All-Stars there down in Atlanta. Manager Dave Roberts of the LA Dodgers is the manager for the game tonight. He just got a very good look at how electric Misiorowski can be, striking out 12 LA Dodgers, giving up just that solo home run leading off the game to Shohei Ohtani as the Brewers swept the Dodgers, then swept the Nationals to roll into the All-Star break with 56 wins, the most wins the franchise has ever had at the break. They have been on a torrid stretch here over the last couple months. Hopefully can continue that after some time off for the rest of the crew outside of that trio. And how about Freddie Peralta, too? He has been the stalwart for the Brewers for so many years now, but certainly this season. It's amazing to think how good the Brewers have been when it comes to how they started the season. I think it was 0-3, 0-4 to start the year. They were getting lit up with all the coverage of the torpedo bats in New York City. They had all these injuries as to the starting pitching, and were just trying to find their way through those first few weeks of the season. And boy, have they righted the ship under Pat Murphy, the reigning NL Manager of the Year. Freddie Peralta, though, from the beginning has been kind of the only steady force for the Crewers from start to mid-season here. Tied for the league lead in wins with 11 wins already. That's the most in the National League, tied with Max Fried of the New York Yankees for the most in all of Major League Baseball. So pretty impressive to see Freddie get that consistent production, of course, as he's known to do, and get that recognition. Now a 2-time All-Star to go with the selections of McGill and Misiorowski as well. Misiorowski known to touch 100 miles per hour or more all over the place. You better believe he would be amped up if he does indeed take the mound tonight for the National League with some extra juice there probably down in Atlanta. So that is some of the fun happening, of course, down south. You can watch, by the way, the MLB All-Star Game on your Fox stations tonight, including here on Fox 6, with pregame coverage beginning at 6 p.m. and the All-Star Game itself at 7 p.m. But you definitely, if you're a Brewers fan, you want to check in early because 6 p.m. on, sometime in that hour will be all the player introductions, all of the fun leading up to it. So you'll get to see the recognition for the Brewers trio of All-Stars, one of the best teams in baseball this year, with those different representatives on the field in the Midsummer Classic tonight. So that is some of the fun you have to look forward to. We can also tell you about some of the fun that we just had. Summerfest 2025 is in the books, but the big gig is already looking forward to next year, actually, as we pop up our post once again from Summerfest saying what an unforgettable year, their 57th year, and already looking ahead to year 58 of the Big Gig. So these are the official dates for next year's Summerfest, announced today by the officials there. So it's going to be June 18th to the 20th, June 25th to the 27th, and July 2nd to the 4th next summer. So once again, going with that 3-weekend format that they've switched to since the pandemic, and sticking with another notable part of this that we experienced this year that will be the case next year as well. Both the Juneteenth holiday and the 4th of July will fall during that 3-weekend stretch of Summerfest. So this year they did some amazing partnering with the music on Juneteenth specifically. Certainly would hope and expect that they do the same next year, bringing in all kinds of different artists, both local stars and ones from more national acclaim to town for the Juneteenth holiday specifically. It looks like they'll be able to do that over the first weekend again, and always fun when July 4th falls on a Summerfest night as well. A great way to celebrate the independence of our country with some great live music, and you know there's always a show, whether it's fireworks or drones or the like, to cap things off. This year, I think Johnsonville had a big happy birthday singing, right? It's the 249th birthday of America this past Independence Day. That means next year, the final day of Summerfest will fall on our nation's 250th birthday. So what a celebration you can expect next year at Summerfest. And then as we get into some of the numbers here, because this was a little bit buried in the release that they had announcing the dates and the success of this year's Big Gig, the actual numbers. I'll look at the attendance for this year's Summerfest 2025. 602,231 fans attended over the 3 weekends and 9 days of the festival. And that was, according to Summerfest, an 8% increase from the number last year. Just under 556,000 fans attended last year. So nice jump for the Big Gig. Last year there were all kinds of weather concerns. I think it was like 6 of the 9 days it rained in 2024, kind of put a damper on things for the organizers. This year a nice bounce back, though certainly not without their issues. A series of headliners had to cancel shows, unfortunately, so they're kind of scrambling to fill some of those spots. Even up to the final day, Nate Smith, highly anticipated on the U.S. Cellular stage, had to cancel, I believe, for health reasons. And the weather was still an issue. There was some rain throughout this year's Big Gig, certainly some really hot days as well. There were some scorchers down there on both the first and third weekends, but still pulling in over 600,000 fans for this year's Big Gig. Now, how does that compare to recent years? You see the increase over 2024. 2023 still has the mark for the highest attended Summerfest since the pandemic. Of course, 2020, they had to cancel the entire thing, as so many other festivals and events had to do during the beginning months of the COVID-19 pandemic. They came back in 2021 with a smaller format there and the 409,000 fans, a big jump in 2022, huge jump into 2023, and then the dip last year because of the weather, followed by a nice bounce back this year, pushing the attendance over 600,000 once again. Now, how does this compare to pre-pandemic levels? Well, consistently over really about a few decades before the pandemic, Summerfest was drawing 700,000, 800,000 and more fans each year, though notably that was under the different format. That was when they would take one day off. It was like the Monday in between, right? But besides that, just go over 2 weekends, about 10 days of concerts, or 11 days of concerts over that stretch, now down to 9. So you lose the overall total dates while trying to capitalize on the ability to book acts over 3 different weekends as opposed to just 2 weekends and a bunch of weekdays in between. So that's where we stand right now for the Big Gig, as we also tell you to get excited for next summer, the 58th year of Summerfest, with those dates now released and official, so you can lock them in from the Big Gig organizers themselves. June 18th to the 20th, June 25th to the 27th, and July 2nd to the 4th. I actually just realized what that would mean, that the final day of Summerfest next year falls not only on the 4th of July, but a notable one, the 250th birthday of the United States, to wrap up the big gigs. Should be fun. Kim Murphy's going to have some of the announcements from State Fair, because now we're, of course, looking towards that, just about 2.5 weeks away from that, July 31st. So yeah, just about 2 weeks, actually, coming for this year's State Fair. She will detail some of that for you once she joins us here on the live desk around 1:30 or so. All right, we're going to take one more break for you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Hanging out, Carl Deffenbaugh with you on this Tuesday afternoon, as we are each and every Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, Carl Deffenbaugh hanging out with you here on this Tuesday afternoon. We are back 1:11 on this Tuesday. Make-A-Wish, of course, for those of us that remember that from childhood. Giving you a live look over downtown Milwaukee here on this Tuesday. 85 degrees. It is a hot one in the city today. We are going to take you actually live now to something that just happened, a DOJ, Department of Justice, and DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency announcement, some different actions combating drug cartels and drug trafficking under the Operation Take Back America initiative. The representatives just stepped to the podium. Let's listen in.
It is an honor to introduce the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi.
Thank you all for being here today. This is so important why we're here today. Acting Administrator Murphy, thank you for everything you do. We've been to DEA labs together. You have been fighting this every day, and I can't thank you enough. It's been an incredible few weeks for the DEA nationwide. We're here today to announce the historic success through Operation Take Back America. We should remember why this work matters. We're honored today to be here with Chelsea Curtis. She is a brave sister. She lost 2 of her brothers to drug overdoses, 1 to heroin, and her second brother she lost to cocaine that was laced with fentanyl. Chelsea works with us here at the Department of Justice. And she's in the District of Virginia, and she does amazing work, and she is paying it forward by looking out for other victims and their families, and fighting this epidemic throughout our country. Thank you, Chelsea, for being here with us. Over the 4th of July weekend, DEA agents executed successful operations throughout this country. One in Columbia, South Carolina, where they seized 71 kilos of fentanyl and 20 kilos of methamphetamine. This is very near the University of South Carolina, where dealers, we all know, often target college kids. They put these drugs in pill forms to go after our kids. This includes a seizure in Fresno, California, also 4th of July weekend. Acting Director Murphy is going to get into details about these, but this is why this is so important, and this is something new that I hadn't seen. 24 pounds of carfentanil disguised as real prescription pills. Carfentanil, we all know, is even stronger than fentanyl. They often call it the elephant tranquilizer. And it was carfentanil in prescription pills to look like oxycodone. That should terrify every parent in this country. In many cases, illegal aliens are doing the work of cartels in our communities. In one recent example, just 2 weeks ago, the DEA arrested an illegal alien sitting in the front passenger seat of a trailer truck that contained over 700 pounds of methamphetamine. 700 pounds. Something else I hadn't seen, they are now putting methamphetamine in a pill form. First time we've seen that, a pill form. Now, a pill form of methamphetamine might not kill you instantly, but it can get you so addicted to meth that it can destroy your life instantly. DOJ attorneys will continue to prosecute these violent criminals, and they're all violent. If you are dealing in these drugs to Americans, to any citizen in this world, you're a violent criminal, and we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. Since January 20th, DEA has been removing this poison from our streets at a historic rate. They've seized over 44 million fentanyl pills, over 4,500 pounds of fentanyl powder, over 64,000 pounds of methamphetamine, 64,000, nearly totaling the same amount that was seized in all of 2024. 541,000 pounds of cocaine. And what they're doing, they just take a little fentanyl and lace it in that cocaine, which is how Chelsea lost her brother. We will not rest until these FTOs are eliminated, their members are prosecuted or deported, and the public is safe again. Thanks to President Trump, we're able to take the handcuffs off our law enforcement officers, our great men and women at DEA who are out there every single day risking their lives to protect us and to protect our families. One Big Beautiful Bill enhances our law enforcement capabilities by also including money for technology that will help our agents catch these criminals. And they're getting so sophisticated. And Acting Director Murphy is going to explain to you, I've never seen anything like this either in my entire career as a prosecutor, how sophisticated they are in smuggling these drugs into our country. Now, I'm going to let him explain that to you with a truckload of cucumbers that came into our country. In addition to One Big Beautiful Bill, the Halt Fentanyl Act that was passed through Congress is now headed to the White House. That will help us because it analogs. Previously, these drugs that were coming into our country, they would change the precursors as fast as they can so they wouldn't be illegal coming into our country. No longer with the Halt Fentanyl Act. Also now, if a criminal is in possession of 100 grams or more of any fentanyl-related substance, any fentanyl-related substance, they will face 10 years in prison minimum. President Trump, the Department of Justice, and the great men and women at the DEA will continue to fight to make America safe again. We will fight from Tampa to the Twin Cities, from Nassau County to the Golden Coast, and I can't wait for you to hear these recent cases that were just made. And to the Angel families and our incredible Angel sister who lost two brothers to drugs, and everyone affected by fentanyl, know that every day we will be out there fighting for you and your loved ones. The most important reminder we can give you here today, to high school kids, to college kids, to parents, to talk to your kids: do not buy, take, accept any drug, any prescription drug from anyone off the street, even if it's a friend. Do not accept it. This is why. This is a real Adderall pill. This is a fake Adderall pill. You can't tell the difference. These are laced with drugs that could kill you. Over here, the oxycodone, the fake ones and the real ones. This is what was seized in Fresno, California. In Fresno, right?
Yes.
Amounts that could kill so many of our high school and college kids. They think that buying this on the street corner won't hurt them, but it will, and it can kill you. And that's why they're targeting places close to our universities as well. I'm going to let Acting Director Murphy now fill you in on all the details of these very, very important arrests that were made just within the last couple weeks. Thank you all for your attention to this very important matter.
And that is the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, speaking there about a series of drug trafficking efforts, against drug trafficking, I should say, from the Department of Justice and the Department of the Drug Enforcement Agency as well, DOJ, DEA. While we give you a live look at Air Force One, we caught Air Force One taking off at the very beginning of the live desk. Just about 50 minutes later, it's already on the tarmac in Pittsburgh. That's how short a flight it is from the D.C. area to western Pennsylvania, with the president arriving. And there he is. All right, let's look live at the president arriving in Pennsylvania. Hold on, let me switch something for you so we get the audio from this. Interesting going from the AG Pam Bondi to her boss, President Donald Trump, because before he left, he did have some comments about Pam Bondi's handling of the Epstein files. This is an investigation that has kind of split members of the Republican community and the president's own supporters in that Make America Great Again supporting branch of the Republican Party. Now, some have been upset with Bondi's handling of that investigation. The president defended his attorney general, saying that she has handled it very well, and it's up to her whether or not to release any more records. As the president enters the motorcade now, it looks like we just lost that feed, but he is, I was hoping it would come back for you. He is heading after this, in that motorcade, to this event, a Pennsylvania Energy and Innovation Summit, where you can see people have already gathered for that today. He was going to be joined by Senator David McCormick of Pennsylvania to jointly announce tens of billions of dollars of energy and technology investments in that state. It's all part of that summit being held at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. And let me get you a little bit more information on what exactly is going to happen today. This event was organized by the Republican Senator McCormick of Pennsylvania. He's a former hedge fund CEO who's using this to showcase and highlight those tens of billions of dollars of investments into the region. Trump cabinet officials have already spoken at this conference, discussing the need to produce as much energy as possible, especially from coal and natural gas in the state of Pennsylvania and elsewhere, as the administration hopes to beat China in the artificial intelligence race, saying that's for the sake of economic and national security. But one thing we know about artificial intelligence, no matter how you feel about it, it requires a mass amount of energy, an incredible amount of energy to power those different servers and generators producing that artificial intelligence results. for so many. So energy at the crux of this. Of course, there is the question when it comes to climate change and whether there was or should be more of a shift towards renewable energy. That is something the Biden administration certainly pushed when it comes to wind and solar and the like. The Trump administration trying to focus things on more traditional forms of energy when it comes to coal and natural gas. The president's famous line, "Drill, baby, drill," has been used throughout multiple campaigns and once again today. And with that announcement coming, the president and Senator McCormick of Pennsylvania saying that tens of billions of dollars will be invested into the region of Pennsylvania, and specifically the western region, when it comes to energy and tech investments. The city of Pittsburgh trying to transform itself from what it was known to be, the Steel City, and then going through many years of decline as the shift away from heavy manufacturing and steel production and the like affected western Pennsylvania, now trying to be a hub for robotics, artificial intelligence, and more. And that is some of the focus today of this conference, this summit at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh. All right, while that continues, as we saw, the president has arrived. He is in the motorcade on his way to that summit, so perhaps something we can also bring you here on the second hour of the Wisconsin Live Desk. We do have to take one more short break here as my hour is just about wrapped. Kim Murphy will be joining you shortly, but we'll be right back here on the Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Our first hour almost done here, but we're here with you until 2:30 each and every Monday through Friday here on Fox Local, the Fox 6 Milwaukee YouTube channel as well. We've had a number of things for you already. The president's departure from Joint Base Andrews, his arrival in Pittsburgh, and soon he will be speaking at this Pennsylvania Energy and Innovation Summit at the campus of Carnegie Mellon. As you can see, him and many other people, a whole series of chairs there, discussing energy investment and technology, certainly when it comes to artificial intelligence and robotics investments in the state of Pennsylvania, and billions of dollars of investment supposed to be coming in an announcement from the president, along with the Senator David McCormick of Pennsylvania joining for that today. Now, while that's happening, other senators are speaking back in D.C. on Capitol Hill. This is the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, who just stepped to this podium moments ago, taking questions from reporters there. And I believe we're going to use this to serve as our handoff today. Kim Murphy is standing by for the second hour of the Wisconsin Live Desk. Still much more to come, including some of the excitement around the Wisconsin State Fair and more. Kim will handle that. Let's listen into some of the questions to the Senate Majority Leader after the big, beautiful bill was passed through Congress. What else is on the agenda for Republicans? And you know what? He's walking away. So we will not go to that. Instead, good thing we caught that. Let's switch gears and we'll get you back to, excuse me here one sec. Just going to switch this to that briefing from members of the Department of Justice and the Drug Enforcement Agency today, trying to combat drug trafficking with a series of operations around the country, specifically when it comes to fentanyl and some other drugs of note. Let's listen to the line of questioning here, and Kim Murphy will be with you on the other side. Thanks a lot.
Everybody arrested in this will be facing. This is a serious amount of drugs. Well, I don't off the top of my head because it was in multiple cities, but I think most of the, pretty much at every place we're talking about, I don't have an exact number.
And to jump in on that same topic, that minimum 10 years in prison for almost all of these defendants, some 20, some 40, depending on the amount of drugs, the type of drugs, the level of drugs. Go ahead. Sure.
For you, Attorney General. Today on social media, President Trump made allegations about mortgage fraud against Senator Schiff. I'm wondering if you can comment on that and whether or not that issue has been referred and will be looked at by the judge.
Yeah, I just was told about those comments walking into this room, and we don't comment on whether there is or is not a pending investigation. But thank you. Anything else on topic today? Go ahead.
Madam Attorney General, on this matter of fentanyl, which is a priority clearly for the DEA, Department of Justice, are you confident you're going to still be here to execute this because there's so many people calling for change at the Department of Justice?
I'm going to be here for as long as the president wants me here, and I believe he's made that crystal clear. It's 4 years, well, 3.5 now, right? We've got 6 months in, and it feels like 6 years.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was with Director Patel this morning, and we are working on fighting violent crime. We are working on all these issues that we deeply care about to make America safe again and get these drugs off our streets. You know, we've been working on this since my really last 2 years. Fentanyl was coming on the market when I was State Attorney General. And now with these cartels, it's coming back. It's coming in more than ever. And the border has stopped that, but we're going to catch them and we're going to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law.
Yes, sir.
Is there disruption at the leadership of DOJ and the FBI with your relationship with Dan Bongino that is affecting the operations of the DOJ?
No, I'm not going to talk about personnel matters. No, I was with Director Patel all morning, and we are committed to keeping America safe, making America safe, working with our incredible partners at DEA, FBI, ATF, U.S. Marshals, to do everything we can to make America safe, and that's what we're focused on. And today, we're focused on protecting our kids. And I would ask all of you, when you leave, go look at that wall outside, right outside this room, of all the fentanyl deaths, all the faces of fentanyl that you have done an amazing job putting up. Thank you all.
Deputy Director Bongino.
Following up on that.
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
I wanted to follow up on that question. I think the American people have a lot of questions about your relationship with the Deputy FBI Director. Do you believe that he should stay in his role?
I'm not going to discuss personnel matters. I think we all are committed to working together now to make America safe again, and that's what we're doing. Only on topic, guys. Go ahead.
First of all, I believe when you're in a public forum, you can choose or not choose to answer any questions, but I don't believe it is your right to ask us. Restrict those questions. That said, I will keep this on topic.
Thank you.
How can you keep America safe again when the president's budget for 2026 cuts DEA by $212 million and the FBI by $500 million? Do you support those cuts? Do you think they will harm your capacity to fight?
Well, it won't. That's a great question. It won't harm our capacity to fight. I'll tell you that. We can always do more with more, but we can do more with less, and that's what we're committed to doing. The big, beautiful bill also adds a tremendous amount for us in combating especially the drug crisis. Billions of dollars, I believe.
I think it's 500 million.
Yeah, let me see, 3.3 billion dollars in the big beautiful bill to combat drug trafficking, support the prosecution of immigration matters, and gang-related crimes. So that crosses all agencies as well. So that bill will greatly help us as well, in addition to the budget. We also have a $3.5 billion reimbursement fund for state and local agencies that are enforcing the Immigration Act, drug and human trafficking laws. And human trafficking is also something we're not talking about today, but is very, very important to us. So yes, there are billions of additional dollars in addition to the original budget. So that was a great question. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I think that's all.
And welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. I'm Kim Murphy here with you with our second hour for this Tuesday. You've just been listening to the DOJ and Department of Drug Enforcement talking about operations cracking down on drug trafficking that span the country. We're going to switch gears now and bring you back home local. Our Brett Lemoyne is covering something that's near and dear to our hearts. We're talking about libraries and funding, and we know that they face incredible funding challenges. So we're going to go to Brett now. And Brett, tell me what is going on with funding, and hopefully you can bring some good news to us.
Well, I will try, Kim. First and foremost, what do you love about the library? You go to the library?
I do go to the library. When I was a kid, I love when we had the library time and you got to go and you got to pick your special book. And as I got older with my nieces and nephews, I love to go into the little area with the little tables and see them pick books and get involved in series. What about yourself?
Oh, it's exactly the same, right? I mean, you know, when you grow up in the library and when you come year after year and then you bring your family when you're an adult, there's nothing better than that. I mean, we're here in McWanago, which is, by the way, a beautiful, beautiful library. And so many books, so many stories, and so many things beyond books, too, right? I mean, the services that public libraries provide now for the community are really incredible. Maker spaces, they've got 3D printers and all sorts of cool things. And so we're here in McWanago talking about these postcards, and you can see there's a display right next to me here, and you pretty much walk into any public library in the state right now through July 25th, and you're going to find a display just like this. The reason that they're here, Kim, is because the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the IMLS, they're earmarked to essentially dissolve the whole department. The Trump administration wants to eliminate it. And that's about $300 million of federal dollars that's spread out all across the country for libraries. And here in Wisconsin, last year alone, the state received about a little over $3 million in federal money from that particular department. And the reason that that money is needed is because it actually funds things that your public library can't fund alone. So we're talking about like interlibrary loan. So when you go to the library and you want to check out a book and they say, oh, we don't have it, but Muskego has it. Well, they'll be able to get you that book from Muskego if you're here in McWanago or vice versa. The other things too, for example, Badger Link, if you've ever used that on the computers here at the library or from home, those are databases that are very expensive that each individual library can't fund and purchase alone. So they're relying on a network of libraries to kind of band together and fund that, and that's where this federal money comes in. So because that department is earmarked to dissolve, and that's still working its way through, there's some legal challenges to that, but because of that, libraries across the state have set up little postcard stations in the library, and what they're asking is people to write into their elected officials and tell them why they love their libraries, why this funding should continue. There's even labels here for people like Ron Johnson and Tammy Baldwin, our U.S. senators here in Wisconsin, to be able to get them that message.
And Brett, what happens if this funding does not come through?
Well, it puts a lot of things in jeopardy, Kim, and there's going to be a trickle-down effect too, right? Because if the library systems collectively can't fund these, the money's got to come from somewhere. And like I said, the individual libraries can't necessarily fund them alone. So there is some workings behind the scenes right now here in McWanago, for example, when it comes to hammering out the budget for next year, how they could potentially configure things to be able to make sure that all of the services that they currently provide are provided again next year.
And services, you talk about that, it's practically from infancy to your senior years. There's so many resources that the library offers in programs and books, and it's a place to get knowledge. I mean, if you don't have computer skills, there are computers there. I mean, it just goes on and on.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that they're concerned about too is the trickle-down effect to some of the smaller rural libraries and tribal libraries that we have in Wisconsin too, that utilize these funds for things like broadband services and whatnot too, that really have an impact on people's lives. Like you said, there are a lot of people that come to the library to use those types of services that they're just not able to get at home.
Yeah, information it's for lack of a better word, it's power, Thank you so much for this update. I know you're working on your story, so I always appreciate the time that you take. We'll see you on the news later this evening on FOX 6 News.
All right, always good to see you, Kim.
Yep,
Thank you.
Thank you. And you are on the Wisconsin Live Desk, the second hour, and we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we've got some exciting news. We're going to brag on the Wisconsin State Fair. Just got a very big nomination, and we're going to talk with the folks at State Fair about what this means and how you can make sure that the whole country knows that we have the best.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
The Wisconsin Live Desk on this Tuesday. Where has the month gone already? We are looking behind, and Summerfest is done. Great numbers to report. Attendance was up. Carl Deffenbaugh shared that with you in the first hour. Let's go now to a news conference that's happening with the state DOT. Let's listen in.
Dedicate a big round of thanks to our WISTOP project staff, especially design project manager Steve Hoff, construction project manager Thomas Erdman, and RMC project development chief David Wynn. Yes. We really also appreciate the help from our consultant and industry partners that are here to design and rebuild this section of the interstate. Many of you are with us today, so thank you for your help. Because of the tremendous work of these teams, I'm pleased to share that the I-43 North-South project came in on time and under budget, and there's still, and there's still some work taking place to the south, so please be alert always and be safe in the work zones. So we can all be proud of these achievements and the positive impact that we're having on the surrounding communities. Together, we really are building a 21st century transportation system that the people of Wisconsin deserve. And now I'm pleased to turn it over to our local partners. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Kennedy. I'm the mayor of the city of Glendale, and I will deliver the shortest remarks this afternoon because it's a hot afternoon and I want you all to not wilt here in the sun. I spent years as a college professor where I'd have to lecture for 3 hours at a time and keep people engaged and interested. As mayor, my remarks are always 2 to 3 minutes. So I will get started on my 3 minutes of remarks. It is an honor to be here today to celebrate the completion of this critical infrastructure project, the widening of I-43 from Glendale to Grafton. Anyone who has driven this stretch of highway knows how needed this project was. Built before I was born, I-43 connects our communities to Milwaukee, to Ozaukee County, and to destinations far beyond. It carries people to their jobs, businesses to their customers, and customers to our local businesses, and families to their homes. But for too long, its age, deterioration, and congestion put motorists at risk and held back economic development in our region. I want to share a quick story about how local cooperation helped move this project forward. I'm working on a letter to the State Joint Finance Committee that I wanted all of the chief executives from Glendale to Grafton to sign on to. Well, I'm a Democrat, and I know Joint Finance was Republicans, and so I needed help, particularly in Ozaukee County. So I reached out to then Mayor John Worth of Mequon, and I told him about the letter and the project that we were working on, and he said, "Oh, I support that project." And he said, "Does your letter mention the new interchange at Highland Road?" And I said, "It doesn't." He goes, "Put that in there and I'll help you get the other signatures." So I added they edited the letter to within that ask to make sure that the new Highland Road interchange was in there. And within days, we had secured signatures from 7 chief executives of communities along this stretch of highway. That letter showed that what we can accomplish when we work together across city, village, county, and even partisan lines. We spoke with one voice and the state listened. Today is proof of that cooperation. It took local advocacy, state leadership, and federal investment to make this happen, and the benefits will be felt for decades to come. Safer commutes, reduced congestion, and strengthened economic corridor that will support growth throughout southeastern Wisconsin and indeed throughout the state. On this date, we celebrate more than just new lanes of concrete and a few new interchanges. We celebrate a commitment to building infrastructure that serves people and the willingness of leaders at every level to make that happen. Thank you to everyone who worked so hard to make today possible, and let's continue working together to build a safer, stronger, and more connected future for all of our communities. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, David, for inviting me to speak. I'll just get a little personal here real quick. I've really enjoyed the relationship we've developed over the course of this project, and I don't know who in WISDOT.
And you're listening to officials celebrate construction completion. How often do we say that? Or not often enough, right? Construction on the 43 North-South Freeway project started back in 2022. It's largely done. It opens traffic. Crews will still be working over, just finalizing some things. But this was a $550 million project. It widened 14 miles of interstate, rebuilt 5 interchanges. We're talking about a new interchange at Highland Road, and it replaced a railroad bridge over I-43 in Glendale. So we've suffered through it since 2022, but some good news there. That part is completed as I give you just a live look at our traffic. We're talking upper past some of that slowdown there that's usually around Bayshore, but beyond there, you see no delays, in part because of the completion of this project. We're going to take a quick break on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll be back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
We're in mid-July, but let's talk about what we're really waiting for, the start of the Wisconsin State Fair. The dates this year, July 31st through August 10th. That's enough to celebrate when you think about the cream puffs and the corn and the music and all of that. But Wisconsin's State Fair just got a big honor, nominated as one of the best or the best fair in all of the country. And we're going to brag about it because why not? That's really big. Tess Kirkson joins us from the Wisconsin State Fair. Tess, congratulations.
Thank you. We are so honored by this nomination. It comes throughout the hustle and bustle of getting ready for the 174th Wisconsin State Fair that, yes, kicks off July 31st. So we are very excited and very busy around this time of year, but no better time than today to really talk about how amazing the fair is and this huge honor from USA Today.
USA Today. So all of the country now is like reading up on the Wisconsin State Fair. What puts us at the top?
Yes, the cream that kind of rises to the top there, if I will use a dairy pun. It's just the uniqueness of the Wisconsin State Fair, particularly in its location. The fact that we're nestled really in maybe a little bit of a suburb in West Dallas, but still in an urban area. And then we bring in the rural of having the farming and the agriculture and all the animal expositions here. That's a really unique thing and a really unique location for us. And of course, what tops the list, the cream puff, the iconic cream puff is so different. And it's one of those things where you can only do an animal and then you go see a live show and then you go eat this amazing food. All of that happening in one location is really unique to State Fair.
And Tess, this blows my mind how you all do this. The fair draws more than 1 million people every year.
Yes, in just 11 days. It's quite wild when you really think about it. But between our Bank 5-9 main stage, all of the different shows throughout the fair park, you have the agriculture elements. There's room for people to spread out across our property. And of course, we park them on the Milwaukee Mile as well. So there's so much to do here. And yes, we pack it in those 11 days. We're really proud of this honor to be really recognized by USA Today, just to be a finalist in itself. But now we're actually sitting ranked number 3 for this national contest. And we're really hoping that we can pull in a #1 ranking for the USA Today 10 Best for the best state fair in the
Number
country.
3 out of the whole country. This is how we can help. The polls are open right now. So fans of the fair, they're invited to vote early and vote often.
Yes, absolutely. You can vote every single day. And we really hope that Wisconsinites can rally behind this Wisconsin cherished tradition of the state fair and really help us take this one home.
And the deadline is July 28th, so that's coming up. The top 10 winners, they were ranked by experts that shows, they look not only just what the fair offers for us fans, but just how well you all run this business.
Absolutely. And we're known for it throughout the fair industry. Wisconsin State Fair pulls up to the top of that list time and time again within industry standards. And now it's kind of fun to get to share that with the general public and all of our lovely Wisconsinites that we love to have come out to these 11 days. This is kind of a way that they can show up for us and really celebrate with us about the best 11 days of summer.
Tess, so appreciative of you stopping your day to speak with us, but this is huge. Again, we'll have this information here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and we'll try to pump it also on our website because we need to vote to move us up from number 3 to the best fair in all of the country. Congratulations again.
Thank you. We're so excited, and we'll see everyone at the fair kicking off July 31st.
We'll see you soon. That's pretty awesome. So again, you are encouraged to vote early and vote often. The Wisconsin State Fair has been nominated the best state fair in the top 10. And of that list of the top 10, which is an honor of in itself, we're number 3 right now. So you can vote through the end of July. You can go to, we'll have this on our website, but it's api.10best.com. You follow that link and you can vote on the Wisconsin State Fair. And let's put this to bed. Let's let the country know that we have the #1 state fair. It's the best 11 days of summer, and it kicks off Thursday, July 31st. It runs through Sunday, August 10th. The food on a stick, all of that. We all look forward to that, and that will be here before you know it. We're going to take a break. on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
The mayors of Mequon and Glendale just wrapped up a celebration. I'm just going to take a live look at our DOT system celebrating the completion of the north-south construction project that seemed like it's been going on forever, but it actually started in 2022, early 2022. This was a $550 million project widening 14 miles of the interstate. Some interchanges were reconstructed. There was a new interchange constructed at Highland Road, and the Union Pacific Railroad Bridge, that old bridge over 43 in Glendale, that was also reconstructed. And so this took the cooperation of a lot of folks, both state and local, but definitely a project that was needed. 43 North-South Freeway is among some of the busiest routes in the state. In fact, tens of thousands use that area, and there's been a population growth also to our north, and so it's long overdue, and you really appreciate that when you don't have that bottleneck at Silver Spring by Bayshore Town Center that used to always occur when you narrowed down to 2 lanes. So that just wrapped up a moment ago. I'm Kim Murphy on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We're going to take you now to an event that is happening, a community event. Let's listen in.
Violence prevention and intervention, including jobs programs that can help people chart a different path forward. Through the People's Response Act, we have a bill that would invest in all these life-saving measures while building the institutional architecture, a new division of community safety at the Department of Health and Human Services that can sustain these investments over time. And through the other bills, we have deep investment in the other areas, summer jobs, housing, and preventing family violence that evidence shows to keep kids and communities safe. But all that promise is hanging in the balance right now. This spring, HHS announced a major restructuring and layoff of 10,000 people, including deep cuts to the agency that leads our research on preventing violence. Not long after, the Department of Justice terminated millions for organizations that work on violence prevention, victim service, and other life-saving programs. And just 2 weeks ago, this Congress passed a budget that will decimate both Medicaid and food security, a cut whose safety consequences will have ripple effects for years, even generations to come. In short, the stakes couldn't be higher. The need for an evidence-based safety agenda couldn't be greater.
and the importance of standing together, of recognizing how these bills chart a different future couldn't be clearer. We're not trying to pass a few bills, we're trying to grow a movement. Because quite simply, that is what these bills are. The community safety agenda isn't just a few policies with a common theme, they're a comprehensive vision of what safety could and should look like. Our kids deserve those safe streets, safe schools, and safe places to play. They deserve a world where they can just be kids, not live in fear. I support this agenda because I also want that future, and I know that these policies and this collective movement for community safety is our best way of getting there. For that reason, I couldn't be more grateful.
And this is coming to you from Pennsylvania. Representative Summerlee, not speaking. This is one of the speakers, though. She's launching a community safety agenda. And you see some community members there in support of that. Let's listen in.
Pennsylvania's 5th District. Thank you for joining us on this very hot July day. And it's probably appropriate because we know that July is the month when we see the highest rates of gun violence, because high temperatures, hot tempers, and easy access to guns are just a recipe for disaster. I want to thank my colleague from the Commonwealth, Representative Lee, for gathering us here. You know, if there's one thing that I hear from constituents from my very first day in office, it's that they want to feel safe and actually be safe in our communities. And if there's one thing I hear from local law enforcement every time I meet with them, it's that they can't do it by themselves. Our communities are crying out for real solutions, but too often all they hear from DC or Harrisburg are messaging bills, slogans, and scare tactics designed to score political points rather than provide real solutions. So it's time for an honest conversation, and that's what this group is trying to do. When safety is concerned, the stakes are too high not to follow what research and evidence and those on the front lines in our neighborhoods are telling us is required. It's not about blame, it's about change, and it's about support. So let me talk a little bit about what my bill in this package addresses. For years, underinvestment in our communities has meant that police and schools have been asked to take on problems far beyond their mission and for which they do not have the capacity, the training, or resources. From homelessness to gun violence to mental health, no one group can solve that. And it's what police officers have been telling Congress for years. We're hearing the same thing from community members. Too often, people are afraid that by calling for help and putting police in a position they're not trained for, it risks escalating an already dangerous situation. When someone has a mental health emergency, it's not responsive, fair, or smart to use resources to have law enforcement be the default response. If we're going to prioritize community safety, we have to find ways that allow local law enforcement to focus their time and energy on what they do best, serious crime solving, and things that they're trained to address. But that's why with my colleagues I introduced the Mental Health Justice Act. It's a common sense solution that makes it easier for state and local government to send trained mental health professionals when 911 is called because an individual is experiencing a mental health crisis or substance use crisis. The bottom line is we know this works. We've seen promising steps towards this model in programs I've been able to secure federal funding for in my own community with support and cooperation with our local law enforcement. Programs like Delaware County's Mobile Crisis Co-Response Pilot Program, which has been successfully de-escalating situations for those in a mental health crisis. And programs like Delaware County's Overdose Response Team, which serves as a vital safety net, providing immediate, on-the-ground intervention and support for those in crisis while easing the burden on overworked medical and emergency service providers. So I'm proud of the early successes of these programs, which are promising steps in the right direction and proof that it's time to pass nationwide legislation like the Mental Health Justice Act for all Americans. The American people, law enforcement, our community activists all agree individuals experiencing a mental health crisis need to be connected with mental health services, not thrown in jail. Mental illness is not a crime. We have to stop treating it that way. So I'm looking forward to introducing the Mental Health Justice Act later this Congress and continuing to partner with Representatives Lee, McBath, Presley, Horsford, and others in championing approaches that address the root causes of violence and offer our neighbors in crisis the care and compassion they deserve. So thank you for joining us today. Now I would like to turn this over to Beatrice Beckford, the National Director of Youth and Family Justice with Moms Rising.
Good afternoon. My name is Beatrice Beckford. I serve as National Director at Moms Rising, and I'm here today on behalf of Moms Rising and our members, standing proudly alongside my colleagues of the Community Safety Working Group, grassroots leaders, and champions in Congress who are sponsoring bold legislation to reimagine safety in our country. At the heart of this message
are listening to a news conference that is happening in Pennsylvania. Topics, subjects that we are familiar with too. Summer violence on the rise and community members demanding solutions and trying to find solutions, and also challenging lawmakers, federal lawmakers, to acknowledge that cities and states need money and to respond. We're going to take a break on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Next, we're going to be joined by a Milwaukee alderman talking about action that happened this morning in the Common Council and how it may affect the house next door.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Accessory dwelling units, what does it mean to you? Maybe nothing right now, but it could in the near future. There is legislation that was voted on this morning, passed 8-7, that would allow your neighbors to build onto their existing structures. Some see this as just, there's concerns about the slippery slope and where this could lead. We are joined by Milwaukee Alderman Scott Spiker, who not a fan of this. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so bring us up to speed on the action that was taken this morning.
Sure. So there was a piece of legislation that passed allowing in single-family zone districts for folks actually to have two families there as a matter of right. And you might think, well, this is no big deal. Maybe grandma's getting on in age and you want to build a basement apartment or an attic space apartment for her with a kitchen, a bathroom, and a sleeping quarters. But although that's the intent, what actually happens is there's no restriction on who you might have in there. So you might have a renter, you might have an Airbnb pop up next door. And the idea of single families, zoning districts being for single families only would go away under the legislation that passed today.
And the reason supporters are behind this, they say because possibly it encourages intergenerational living, that it addresses affordable housing. How do you respond to that?
I think the intentions are good. It is just the consequences which haven't been thought all the way through. So again, under the legislation that passed, I could live next door to you and do this as a matter of right without informing you as my neighbor or any of the other neighbors who are around and potentially impacted by my decision. And the local alderperson also receives no notification. So what I had sought to do was to amend the legislation so that at least the folks living around who are most directly impacted by what happens in the dwelling are notified and given a chance to weigh in on whether they think it fits with what's going on in their neighborhood. And I can see a bunch of circumstances where folks would say, of course, Mrs. Riley has lived here for years. We have no problem with her living in this attached unit. But if you switch to, well, actually, I plan on doing an Airbnb out of there, I might get a very different reaction from my neighbors. And under the legislation, the local alder and those neighbors have no say in the matter and don't even know about it necessarily.
So is this a done deal? I know that Mayor passed this legislation. Is there a way to go at it a different way, to introduce another piece of legislation?
Well, it passed on the narrowest of margins, so 8-7, and every indication is that the mayor will sign it. So what I've been told is if it ends up having problems, we can go back to the drawing board and look at it again. To my mind, it's better to do it right the first time, and transparency is never a bad thing. So in this case, I would rather have the neighbors have a chance to weigh in. The legislation passed today says, nope, they can't. And maybe if a bunch of Airbnbs start popping up in single family neighborhoods, there will be a reaction of oopsie, but I tried to prevent that in the first place.
And there is a real situation in the Milwaukee housing market that homes are being bought, but not by owners. That, you know, you have a lot of out-of-state investors that have realized that this is a market to tap into. And so I can see the concern that you would have someone from out of state or who doesn't plan to live there for that wholesome reason, that it could become a rental property, you know, something of that nature.
Right, and the authors of the legislation, to their credit, tried to do something about that concern. It's just that what they tried to do isn't adequate. So what they tried to do is say, look, if you want an accessory dwelling unit, an ADU on your property, you have to, when you pull the permit, live there at that time. The next day you could move out. When certainly if I had my mother living in the basement, she passes away, then I look to sell the property. The next person who buys doesn't have to live there. So what you're pointing to, the possibility of investors taking on these properties, it might not hit right away, but it certainly is a danger coming down the pike. When I can market my residence in a single family neighborhood as, look, you don't have to live there and you can have 2 rental units. No relatives involved whatsoever. Now that's would be allowed as a matter of right, and anything in the legislation can't prevent it.
Why no public comment? Because I can imagine, you know, if people really knew that this was happening, and I know that that was your push, and you sent a statement out last evening saying, hey, this is what's happening today, but I don't know if it's a little too late, you know, that people didn't know that this is a possibility.
Yeah, and that's a really good question, because we've discussed it twice at committee with relatively little involvement from the public. There was more engagement during the Plan Commission hearing on it, but I think it's exactly as you described. People don't understand what the consequences will be, and it won't be till those consequences rear their heads that people say, what did you sign there? What did you
Right.
approve
Why is
today?
my neighbor now building another story? And, I had 2 people living there and now I've got 8.
Right. Yeah. And those are the calls that we will get as alder people. Why didn't you tell us about this? And our answer will have to be, we didn't know ourselves.
Can the
Never a place you
public
wanna be.
now contact their older person? Is it too late? Can they say, hey, we just heard this passed and we're not happy about it?
Certainly, there's always the option for people to contact their alderperson and express their pleasure or displeasure with legislation that they signed off on. So if the problem is not enough people are hearing from their constituents that this matters to them, one reaction would be, well, show them that it matters to you. But realistically, it having passed, the news cycle being what it is, I expect the mayor will sign it and we'll go on with the lack of transparency until there's problems. And then suddenly people will look back and say, oh, this was maybe a little too hasty.
Yeah. Alderman, while we have you, want to brag on your district? Exciting things that are happening?
Yeah, there's always, so our district is the 13th district. We're on the south side near the airport. Also have the Islamic Center in the district, and we bill ourselves as the Garden District. Neighbors, there's a mix of, there's some duplexes and single family homes, but what's uniform throughout is the pride people take in their neighborhoods. And so it's an excellent way to build community, taking care of your property, sharing. We have, all sorts of neighborhood events that are about building community, because firm believer in the idea, with my background organizing neighborhood groups, the more you know your neighbors, the more you have relationships with them, the stronger the neighborhood is, the better people look out for each other, and the more you're living not just among strangers, but among true neighbors and friends.
I think if we can take that model and replicate it throughout the city, we'd be in a better place. Alderman, thank 100%. You so much for taking time with us and keeping us informed.
Yes, thank you so much for your interest. I appreciate it.
Have a great afternoon. You're watching the Wisconsin Live Desk. There you have it. Something that could possibly affect you if you live in the city of Milwaukee, that now a person can apply for a permit to add on to their existing structure, and it may be someone who plans to live there, or it may not be someone who plans to live there, and it could be a rental property, an income property. Our Jason Calvi is following this story. He was at City Hall for the vote and the discussion, and so he'll have that story coming up on Fox 6 News later.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
covering a lot of ground this afternoon, and we still are checking in on what's happening around the country. We're going to take you back now to Pennsylvania, where there is a community group along with a representative talking about the need for more money funneled towards cities to make this summer a safe one.
But without increased federal, state, and local investments, these life-saving programs are destined to shrink or even disappear. States are increasingly trying to keep programs alive by allocating funding from state budgets, including last month $2 million in the Texas budget that was signed by Republican Governor Greg Abbott. But federal funding is urgently needed to sustain and expand these proven programs. With the Trump administration recently rescinding over $100 million in already granted funding to violence prevention nonprofits, and today House Republicans advanced their extreme bill slashing funding for CVI programs as well as other programs to prevent violence among youth, women, and everyone. This is more important than ever. So I urge everyone to call their congressperson and encourage them to co-sponsor the Break the Silence of Violence Act, because now is not the time to pull back from these life-saving programs. It's my pleasure now to introduce Liz Kumar, the Sentencing Reform Counsel for the Sentencing Project.
For more than 50 years, the U.S. has pursued mass incarceration as its answer to public safety. The U.S. prison population has grown nearly 500% in the past 50 years. That approach has not only failed to deliver lasting safety, it's deepened racial injustice, destabilized communities, and drained resources from the very things that prevent violence: housing, mental health care, youth development, education, and economic opportunity. Extreme sentences are not the path to justice or safety. We can move away from reactive, punitive responses towards strategies that actually reduce harm. That includes investing in community-based violence interruption programs, expanding non-police crisis response teams, supporting youth outside the justice system, and strengthening the social supports that make people and communities resilient. The community safety agenda reflects this vision. We urge Congress to stop creating new mandatory minimums in pursuit of safety and invest instead in evidence-based approaches that center care, healing, and prevention. This is not a theoretical proposal. It's grounded in decades of data and practice. We know what works, and we know that safety doesn't come from cages or criminal records. It comes from connection, resources, and dignity. And now it's my honor to introduce Michael Huggins, Deputy Senior Director at Color of Change.
Good afternoon, everyone. I really want to thank so much Representative Lee for her leadership on this, and all of my colleagues and advocates. My name is Michael Huggins. I am Deputy Senior Director of Policy and Government Affairs at Color of Change. Color of Change is the nation's largest online racial justice organization dedicated to reducing harm against Black communities. At a time when Congress is choosing to invest more in billionaires than it is working class individuals, we at Color of Change are so proud to support the Community Safety Working Group's agenda. We are also very much dedicated into making sure that all of the bills and this agenda become law. Black people deserve to feel safe in their homes and communities like so many other communities. And we need a model of community safety that is rooted in public health and seeks to eliminate harm. But despite the evidence that punitive interventions make us less safe, we continue to invest more in tough on crime tactics. More police and more funding for police is not going to make our communities safe, and it's time to shift that thinking and promote something that is actually going to be effective. In particular, we are very excited about the reintroduction of the People's Response Act, which would fund evidence-informed community safety programs proven to reduce harm for Black people. The PRA emphasizes an inclusive, holistic, and health-centered approach to public safety by creating a division on community safety within the Department of Health and Human Services, because communities and experts agree that public safety is a matter of public health. The PRA provides these necessary and critical resources and assistance to scale up inclusive, holistic, and health-centered approaches that actually are going to transform our communities. But despite the clear benefits of investing in our communities, the government continues to give billionaires more money, more resources, and more tax breaks, and refuses to invest in things like healthcare, access to food, higher ed financing, housing affordability, all things that have been proven to actually make our communities safe. And the people are noticing. The government is choosing to build wealth for billionaires on the backs of our communities and safety, and it's time to change it up. Investing in community health, alternative crisis response, violence prevention, safe and affordable housing, economic stability, education, youth and families, community infrastructure, and addressing other community needs is not only common sense, it is a matter of life and death. It is critical in building the kind of transformation that our communities require. So I stand here with my fellow advocates, and I urge Congress to take up this agenda and start investing in our communities. And I think I might be the last one. I'll kick it over to Representative Lee.
You may. I feel like, of course, everything that needs to be said was said at this point. If there is anything else that needs to be asked, this would be the moment to do it, though it's 200 degrees out. Keep it in mind. All right. All right, thank you all so much. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, man.
That event just wrapping up in Pennsylvania, a call for more investments into communities for safety, recognizing that gun violence is on the rise all across the country. That particular news conference was concerned about neighborhoods in Pennsylvania, but of course here in Milwaukee, we have had our own just violent summer, if you want to be honest. So this is a conversation that is happening across the country. We also are keeping an eye on a summit that is happening also in Pennsylvania, Energy and Innovation Summit, where President Trump is expected to attend. We know that Air Force One has landed, and so we are keeping an eye on that. But kind of a busy afternoon as we jump around. This Energy and Innovation Summit, interesting that it's happening in Pennsylvania, coal country. You can see that there's a lot of people that are joined there for this summit. The president is going to speak about his energy agenda, announcing the Senator Dave McCormick of Pennsylvania. Together, they are expected to announce roughly $70 billion of energy investments in Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania Energy and Innovation Summit is being held at Carnegie Mellon University, and it comes as the state's political and business leaders are working to make the city a hub for robotics, artificial intelligence, and energy. President Trump has pledged U.S. dominance in the energy field in the global market. Pennsylvania is a swing state. It was critical in 2016, 2024. So an investment of $70 billion definitely is something that is going to be well received there. Let's switch to lighter news. Of course, we are talking about the All-Star Game, which you can see later this evening right here on Fox 6. The Brewers, I think we can pump our chests out. We've got 3 Brewers who have been selected for the 2025 MLB All-Star Game. Freddie Peralta, Trevor McGill, and The Miz, Jacob Mizorowski. Of course, there's been a little bit of flack how this newbie has only been, with the major league, the bigs, 5 games, but oh, what a 5 games it has been. So we are excited to see tonight's game. The pregame starts at 6 p.m. and then the game, the All-Star Game, is at 7 p.m. But you don't have to miss the news. Our Fox 6 News at 6. You can catch us right here on Fox Local. Same for Fox 6 News at 9 will be on Fox Local. And then after the All-Star Game, join Ted and Mary for the Fox 6 News. Well, we appreciate you stopping by, as always, on the Wisconsin Live Desk for this Tuesday. All in all, it's a good day. Lots of positive news. So we hope you enjoy yours and take it easy out there. The temperatures out there, it's kind of warm out there. We're looking at, I'm going to say dew points, but I'm probably making that up because it feels a whole lot. I know it's not 69 degrees out there. So when in doubt, don't try to do the weather. That's the lesson there. Thank you for joining us on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Have a great afternoon.